Hello, it's the Great Canadian Beggar here, coming to you with the next item in the Electoral Systems series, this time with Mixed Member Proportional. So, how does Mixed Member Proportional work? On the face, it looks relatively complicated, but to the voter, it's pretty simple. It's more complicated to people actually counting votes. But how you actually cast your vote is pretty simple. Essentially, everyone gets 2 votes. You get 1 vote for your constituency level candidate, which is usually determined by first past the post. And you have a second vote for your most preferred party. So if you really like let's say hypothetically, you have a blue party and a red party, and you really like the red party candidate, but you like the blue party overall, you could vote like that. Split voting is pretty common. I believe in New Zealand, something like 27% of voters split vote, so it is quite a common occurrence. Now, your second vote for your party, the way that works is all the parties must exceed a 5% threshold of the second votes. And if they have it's typically 5%. It can be anything. I believe Bolivia uses 3, but normally it seems to be 5%. Every party that has exceeded this 5% level is considered in balancing the parliament proportionally. So the base level of the parliament is done by the constituency level seats, and then they add additional seats to address non-proportional results from the constituent level races. The MPs for these overhang seats are usually from a party list, though I'm aware of some places, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but some localities do use the next closest winner. So basically the constituency level candidate who got the most votes but lost, if that makes sense. Now, these party lists can be open or closed, though they seem to normally be closed from actually inspecting systems that are actually used. Though, really, the party list is only going to be used for small parties. The big parties in a system, which you're going to always have in this system, because you're always going to have big parties, they're going to get a lot of their candidates from constituency level mandates. Now, let's address the criteria. Now, all of the criteria listed here, majority winner, majority loser, Condorcet winner, monotone, consistency, participation, later no harm, and later no help, are functionally identical to either the first past the post video or the party list proportional video, depending on whether you're talking about the party vote or the constituency level vote. So I will not cover those in much more detail. You can go see those videos if you want to know how those systems work and if they follow these criteria, satisfy these criteria. Long story short, mostly yes. Different tiers of members. Now, this has 2 tiers of members. And this creates a lot of complexity in politics. Essentially, you have one level of candidate whose mandate is directly from a locality. They are accountable to only their locality, because the local vote has nothing to do with the party vote. So this local candidate is loyal, in theory, only to their constituency, because that is the only way they can reliably get reelected, if they fulfill and satisfy their constituents. Conversely, the party list level candidate does not have that, and instead only cares about what's best for the party. They have no loyalty or no consideration for local areas. Now, in some proposed versions of systems, there's been one case for Canada, where the proportionality would be done on a province level, and in which case you would muddy the party list voters, because the party list voters getting their seats from, say, Nova Scotia are going to be more loyal to Nova Scotia voters than Canadian voters as a whole. But again, the general stroke, or the general trend continues. The party list MPs have different considerations than constituency level MPs. They have different election methods, they have different priorities, and they have different re-election thought processes. And this can create a very funky system, especially since the two largest parties are going to typically dominate the constituency level seats, and the small parties are going to be mostly done by party list, with a couple exceptions. In Germany, for example, the Alternative for Germany party almost overwhelmingly comes from actual constituency level seats because they're very popular specifically in places like Saxony, but they're not very popular overall in Germany, so they win a lot of seats in direct mandates, but they don't actually get enough vote share to gain many party list seats, if any. So there are exceptions to this, but typically the small parties are going to be mostly party list candidates, and the big parties are going to be mostly constituency candidates. And the consequence that this derives is the small party members, for the most part, do not particularly care what's best for anybody. Typically, when you are on a party list, especially in a closed party list, you are there because you are been in the party for a long time or have a lot of influence or loyalty with the leader of the party, so you are put high up on the list. So in that regard, these small parties have an incredible amount of party discipline, because the only thing that matters to them to get a seat in Parliament is to have support of the party. And broadly, to have support nationally in the party. So their vote considerations, once they are in Parliament, is 100% all in party discipline. What's best for the party is what's best for them. Conversely, constituency level candidates do not have that consideration. Now, party discipline still applies, and in a lot of cases, and depending on where you are, there can be an incredible amount of party discipline. For example, in Canada, party discipline has some of the highest party discipline rates in the world. We do not have the system, but it is with first past the post seats, which does apply to the constituency level members in mixed member proportional. So, broadly speaking, these constituency level candidates have much more vested interest to not always side with the party, especially since a voter in their local riding who might really like the incumbent party in power but might really hate their local MP can happily vote for someone completely different from their local riding and still vote party list, or with their party vote still vote for that party, and they haven't meaningfully, if at all, disadvantaged their preferred party. So in this regard, the constituency level members have an incredible amount of accountability to the voters, and the party list members have almost none. Resistance to form government, resistance to government change or difficulty to form government are functionally the same as party list proportional, because in effect, any system that actually gets proportional results is always going to have the same considerations. If the results are to a one seat approximation proportional, they're going to all have the same considerations for these two. So in this regard, a mixed member proportional system is going to be more prone to having one party dominate the government and make it very difficult oftentimes for that party to be ousted, requiring often very large scandal or just abject failure from that party. A poignant example is the case of Germany, where the CDU has dominated Germany for, I want to say, I double check I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it's in the realm of 80% of years since 1954, when the current German government was established. About 80% of the time, they've been in government. They've had the chancellorship, specifically. And this is not really an outlier in mixed member proportional systems, because the way the first past the post seats and the party list seats work together creates a situation where it's very easy for one party to have a large plurality of the vote. And since you will have a lot of small splinter parties who are all party list members, they have very little incentive to not work with you, as they have no local mandates that they might lose if they displease the local voters. They only have to satisfy the entire nation, which is a lot easier than satisfying local voters. Now, does that make this a bad system? No, but it does mean it is a system where it can be very difficult for the government to change, can allow a party to be in power for a very long time, and oftentimes can survive leadership transitions quite well, which typically, in a first-past-the-post system, a leader transition almost always invariably forces a new government from a new party. So, with that said, let's see where we rank it. I put it again here in B tier. Now, this is to say, it's not a bad system. Any systems in B tier, STV, party list, mixed and proportional, they're not bad per se. The issue with systems like this, and these are all, I will note, systems that strive for proportionality, though you can argue STV is not really a proportional system, because it's not. In most cases, it's not going to get a proportional outcome. It's just more proportional. Anyways, the biggest problem with all these systems is oftentimes, in the case of STV, it's very complicated. Party list proportional, you get very unstable government often, and the parties have incredible party discipline and very little consideration or care for regional considerations or interests. And this also applies to mixed member proportional. The abstraction of the voting process away from local representatives to parties, in a lot of ways, actually undermines the entire purpose of democracies. The reason why parliamentary democracies existed to begin with is to represent local considerations to government. A lot of these proportional systems, mind you, all these proportional systems completely gloss over regional differences in parties, in voters, in considerations, and abstract them away. Now, this voter trend still exists, but you don't have people speaking for those voters because it's not clear. Whereas in a first past the post system, you can have a regionalist party like the SNP in the United Kingdom who's talking about mostly Scottish independence. That can exist. Now, it can also exist in a proportional system. That's a terrible example. We're going to go with a different one. Sometimes I don't have the best examples planned out here. You can go with... We're going to stick with the UK example. So in the UK, for the longest time, Northern United Kingdom was serviced by the Labour Party. All these industrial or post-industrial districts catered to by the Liberal candidates. In a proportional system, you don't really have a specific candidate, for the most part, speaking to you. Now, yes, mixed member proportional does technically claim to have that. But the issue is you introduced the party list voters, candidates. And in a lot of cases, I believe in Germany it works out about roughly 1/3 of MPs are party list MPs. So it's nearly functionally impossible to form a government without party list voters or party list MPs, and the party list MPs do not know or understand a local area. They're not coming from the small towns in the post-industrial Northern England. They are just a voter or a candidate in England. They do not speak for one area. They speak for everybody. But in that regard, you do lose that connection. Because in a lot of cases, in a Canadian example, you'll have places like Western Canada who feel alienated and ignored by Ottawa, the federal government. In a proportional system, those voices get drowned out because there is no requirement that the party list MP has to come or respect or care or know anything about Western Canada. They just have to exist. And that's really the point I'm making here, is in a system like this, you remove the attachment between the local representative and the person they're representing. Mixed member proportional does it better in a lot of ways than party list. Now you might argue, why is party list still in B tier? The issue is, at the end of the day, any proportional system is going to have the same net result. You have minimized or completely removed the ability to speak for specific considerations from specific people, and now you only have general considerations from general people, which in a lot of ways flies in the face of what democracy actually is. Representative democracy is supposed to be. It's supposed to be representative. With that, I'll finish the video. If you want to disagree with me on that last spiel there, feel free in the comments below. I will happily have a discussion with you. If you want an addendum to this, or you're confused, or you want any follow-ups, also comment. I can easily do a footnote video discussing any possible considerations or concerns people have. But otherwise, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe. All those things really do help the channel quite a lot. And if you're interested in these kind of things, follow me on Twitter @BagwellPolling. Otherwise, I will see you next time.